Matsalu Bay on the Baltic Sea, Estonia's famed Garden of Eden. One of Europe's crucial stop-offs for migrating birds, and home to countless rare species of plants and animals. And above all, this is moose country. Matsalu National Park is their summer residence, a refuge of astonishing diversity. This floodplain is strictly protected, both above and below water. Here hunters can't disturb deer dalliances, nor moose in their quest of looking for love. Matsalu is at the heart of their wild lives. From March to November, it offers them plenty of food and protection. This is their story. Autumn in Matsalu National Park. It's moose rutting season. Testosterone laces the air. The bulls are looking for love. Literally blinded by passion. Scent marking, they sweep their antlers through grass and brush, decorating their headgear in the process. It's a way of appearing larger than life. They'll give anything to be noticed by the females. This cow seems to be interested. Her scent stimulates the bulls and tells them she's about to come into season. As soon as she turns up on the rutting ground, the bulls take their positions. But not every passionate chase ends in triumph. The cow has the final word on the matter. Usually only the biggest and strongest bull is allowed to approach. And she only tolerates him during the 1 week she's in season. Smelling and tasting her urine tells him when she's ready to mate. Now, it's essential to stick with her, because a moose cow is only receptive for 24 hours. He will have to make the most of this time. The actual deed is done in seconds. But he'll have a go as often as she'll let him. For many residents, November is a time of departure. All migrating birds that don't overwinter in Estonia now make their way south. Absence is temporary, but leaves the paradise as a site of solitude. Winter comes suddenly, without warning. Storms and blizzards transform Matsalu Bay into an icy desert at the drop of a hat. Life deserts the flooded meadows. Hooves can no longer find a purchase here. moose have withdrawn to the forests further inland. The cold and snow doesn't bother them, but they need peace. They must save their energy to make it through the rough winter. To find enough food, they often have to travel long distances. Their splayed hooves and long legs help them cross tough terrain and plow through deep snow. They might spend 10 to 12 hours a day looking for food. Their main staple has become tree bark. In winter, an adult moose needs to find between 8 and 12 kilos of food every single day. Delicate twigs are best, since they're a little more nourishing than the bark of thick tree trunks. But it always depends on what can be found with the least amount of effort. Saving energy is top of the list. Moose use their lower incisors to peel bark from the trees. It's a tough meal, but bark is what gets a moose through the winter. Snow and ice keep a firm grip of the land for half a year. The local wildlife knows how to cope. Deer make their rounds slowly and in large groups, saving their energy. Not everything is frozen. A few of the bigger rivers still carry open water. It's ideal for fish otters living on their banks. They survive by feeding on the many frogs that spend the winter at the bottom of the river. Frogs might not be particularly palatable, but there's lots of them, and they fill a hungry belly. The otter has an exceptionally dense coat, so the wet and cold hardly touch it at all. And the fresh snow serves a little like a towel. After a thorough frolic, the fur is clean and dry once again. For an otter, winter is a good time. Sometime in March, following months of cold and dark, the light returns. Every warming sun ray now awakens new life in Matsalu. Grasses and trees emerge from their long winter slumber. Slowly but surely, the large expanses of ice break up. Meltwater flushes through and floods large parts of Matsalu Bay. As soon as the ice is gone, the moose return. This cow has managed to get her 2 calves through the winter. Now, she leads them both back into the swamps of Matsalu National Park, devoid of hunters and with more food to go around than in the forests. These young moose are almost grown up, but stick closely to their mother. On arrival, the family moves as a unit in search of the best food sources. But soon, they will need to part. Matsalu Bay is not just a refuge for Estonia's moose. The protected swamps are of global significance. It's a key stop-off on the great East Atlantic flyway for migratory birds. Deserted beaches, shallow waters. For the long-distance travelers, it's a perfect place to rest. Every bird species follows its own migration route. But this inaccessible spot of land is like a magnet for them all. Barnacle geese have spent the winter in the Netherlands and are among the first to arrive. Gray seals collect just offshore. They live scattered right across the Baltic Sea. But during the mating season, they come together in a colony on the Estonian coast. Just 4 weeks after giving birth to their pups, the females are back in season. The little seal pups are often left to their own devices while their mothers devote themselves to their love lives. Seal mums produce extremely rich milk, and the little ones grow quickly. Adult whales eventually reach heavyweight status at 230 kilos. The pups' distinctive fluffy white coats are not water resistant. They have to stay in the dry that is above the high water mark for at least 5 weeks before they grow a proper waterproof seal coat. Only then can they follow their mothers into the water. The great bird migration continues throughout the spring. Inaccessible reed beds, flooded landscapes. Matsalu is an El Dorado for waterfowl. Millions of birds flock here in March and April. Some stay. Others seek to gather strength before moving on. Ducks find food in the flooded meadows, but little peace. For an eagle, this many ducks makes for rich pickings. It's spoiled for choice. The agitated flock makes it tough to hone in on just one duck. But an injured bird makes the hunt effortless. The sun goes down a little later every single day now. It gives the cormorants more time to fish before they have to return to their roost at twilight. For a young moose, spring brings dramatic changes. The mother cow is heavily pregnant and has to get rid of her older calves. One of them is already making his own way in life. But the other simply can't let go. But she needs peace and quiet now. Every year she returns to the same secret and secluded place to give birth. She wants to be on her own for the delivery. and the calf that until now was the apple of her eye is no longer welcome. Will he make it on his own? Estonia's swamps are like a virtually limitless water reservoir and serve as a stopover for countless birds, but not all of them move on. Cranes make their homes at the edge of the swamp and begin their noisy courtship displays in March. Whooper swans stay here year-round and are ready to mate early on. The two pairs' performances seem like a competition for the most impressive courtship display. And it doesn't take long to get down to business. For birds, it pays to reproduce early in the year. It gives their young enough time to grow big and strong. Cranes and whooper swans use the rich pickings of summer in Matsalu National Park to their fullest extent. The young moose, recently kicked out by his mother, is making his lonesome way through the swamp. Food is of no concern for him. The fresh spring buds everywhere offer plenty to eat. But meeting other animals makes him nervous. He's all on his own and has to rely on his own decisions for the first time in his life. A roebuck is equally suspicious, even though neither of them poses a threat to the other. His bark is frightful, a warning call to show that he feels threatened. For the young moose, experiences like these are brand new. He has to get used to the fact that he can no longer hide behind his mother's bulk. He needs to grow big and strong fast to withstand future challenges, so feeding is high on his agenda. The extensive swamps offer ideal conditions. The rutting season is still a long way off. The bull's antlers first have to regrow, since they ditched them in winter. In the beginning, there are only small protrusions. But every consecutive year, the males regrow new, bigger, and heavier antlers. Their soft coating is known as velvet. The tissue supplies nutrients to the growing antlers until they have reached their full extent. Adult moose tend to be loners, but young adolescents often prefer to stick together for comfort. The sprouting meadows lure the moose with fresh herbs and juicy buds. Finally, they can enjoy proper meals again after the scarcity of winter. But reaching for food on the ground is no mean feat with such long legs. It's easier to feed kneeling down. The moose are now picky about their diet, and a good food source can attract many of a similar mind. The trees may still be bare, but nonetheless are full of life. Pendulum Tip devotedly works on the construction of a comfortable home, an artful construction of twigs, grasses, and cotton grass seeds. It takes around 30 days to build. Then it's time to find a mate. Even the massive gray heron nests are almost finished. They're ready for the next generation. Meltwater and inflows from further inland now flood the coastal area. The expansive floodplain is tough to reach. Even so, its wild inhabitants find their way around with ease. But wild boars are a rare sight in this open landscape. The young moose, too, seem irritated. Are the wild boars lost? Perhaps they're just a few inexperienced adolescents. Or is this the only path across the flooded meadow? No one here really has anything to fear from the other. Why the boars decide to follow the moose remains a mystery. As soon as the temperatures stay consistently above zero, the amphibians join the party. Frogs loudly call for a mating partner. Toads tend to migrate far to reach their spawning grounds. Males often catch a piggyback on the females, no matter where the journey leads. With the urge to procreate clouding their minds, males often cling to anything that moves. Veritable toad balls form with a female at the center. It's utter chaos. Finally, a pair has found each other. The female now lays long egg strings that are fertilized by the male as soon as they emerge. The spawn quickly swells up in the water and forms a protective gelatinous shell around the eggs. Within a few weeks, there will be a new generation of toads. Almost everywhere, spring heralds courtship and procreation. These moose calves have only just been born. They tentatively take their first step. The mother's pregnancy lasted almost 8 months. Now in April, she's given birth to 2 calves. The little ones weigh only around 8 or 10 kilos and are very clumsy at first. The fact she's produced 2 healthy calves is a sign of good living conditions and plenty of food. In the beginning, the new mother suckles her young up to 10 times a day. With 11% fat and 15% protein, her milk is extremely nourishing. It means her calves can gain weight rapidly. Within days, they're able to follow their mother on her expeditions, and soon they'll be fast enough to outrun most predators. Icy cold and snow can be lethal to the newborns in their first weeks of life. Even for adult animals, a late cold snap can be fatal. Not everyone survives the sudden frost unscathed. For ravens, magpies, and other opportunists, a fresh deer carcass is a lucky find and a true feast. The deer's death enables the survival of the carrion eaters. But this moose has been dead a long time. Perhaps he was injured and became stuck in the reeds many years ago. No predator found him and pulled his limbs apart, so the skeleton remains untouched in its original position until one day its bones too will break down. The first touch of spring breathes life into flowers. Wood anemones are among the first to open their blossoms. As long as the bare branches still let the sunlight through, they're able to unfold their splendor. By the end of April, most bird chicks have hatched. These parents profit from the rich foods offered by the Matsalu bird paradise. There are plenty of earthworms, but it never seems enough for the ravenous chicks. It takes time before spring really gets a foothold in Estonia. It's May before the trees finally begin to sprout leaves. Fresh, energy-packed buds are now at comfortable head height for the moose. While the mother feeds, the calves are left well hidden in the brush nearby. They've been picking at a few leaves from the very beginning, but mother's rich milk remains their main food. The closeness to their mother remains their only protection. A moose cow defends her young fiercely against anything and anyone. The young moose born last year is still looking for contact with his mother. It seems he won't accept that she now has other priorities. He carefully approaches the family. But the mother is not amused. Ears flat, she makes her annoyance felt. But he is persistent. She must make herself understood. And he needs to realize there is no room for him near his mother. His obstinacy is intolerable for the mother. Outcast and lonesome, he must find his own way in life. Independence can be a bitter pill to swallow for moose calves, too. Many of the meadows are still flooded in May. Waders, ruffs, and snipes are here in large numbers, always in search of food. The corncrake is rarely seen, but unmistakably noisy during mating season. By now, even the reptiles have joined the throng of life in Matsalu. Grass snakes are excellent swimmers. For them, the swamp is an ideal living space. This one has a very particular aim. During the mating season in May, groups of males are lured en masse by the female's pheromones. But only one will win the race and be rewarded with a chance to pass on his genes. At the end of May, everything is lush and green with lots of food to choose from. Perfect for this young buck. Like all deer, he is very picky. In the safety of Matsalu National Park, he can browse at leisure and gather his strength. The raccoon dog is an exceptionally shy inhabitant, and originally from the northeast of Asia. During the last century, it was imported to Eastern Europe for the fur trade. Now it's making advances into Western Europe too. The deer and the raccoon dog are no enemies, and an encounter is more about careful inquisitiveness. Whatever is bothering the raccoon dog, it seems to be a real nuisance. Parasites, fleas, or maybe just the remnants of the winter coat? All furry animals now quickly change their coats before the onset of the hot summer. This buck, too, will soon shine in his red summer coat. The lonely young moose is nervous. His nose tells him something is amiss. But what is it? He's already so big that he faces few threats from others. And a deer surely can't be a nuisance to him. So what does he have in his sights? Is it the deer after all? Has he taken his favorite feeding spot? Is it a game? What is it about the small animal that riles him? Ears back and head down, he really is serious. The deer has to go. Why remains a mystery. Nearby, the moose family is making its round. The calves have doubled their weight in the last weeks and show nothing of their initial clumsiness. They're growing incredibly fast. It's crucial because survival depends on reaching their mother's size by the return of winter. In summer, feeding is the moose's main concern. And for the mothers, of course, the defense of their young. By the end of May, the days have become really long and deliver plenty of sunlight to boost plant growth. Gradually, the streams drain the meadows. Only a few ponds are reminders of the great swamp. Ideal conditions for gnats. Swallows and other birds can't make a dent in their numbers. They've bred in the flooded meadows, and now they're everywhere. For many, the paradise has become hell. For mammals, these bloodsuckers are the main drawback of the protected area. Deer and moose try to get away from the worst of it by hiding in the brush, but even here, mother and her calves have no peace. Even the cool stream doesn't provide a getaway from the little pests. This summer Eden obviously has its downside. Here and there, brush and tree islands dot the open swamp and meadows. Ideal conditions for the short-eared owl, busy raising her young here. The parents care for their chicks for roughly 1 month. Then, they'll have to catch their mice alone. Life on the meadows is in full swing. The deer rut is imminent, and the bucks have marked out their territories. It's all about showing off and issuing threats. They're ready to fight for their territories. And that can take weeks. Summer in Matsalu is brief but luxurious. Everything the moose and the deer could wish for to get fat ahead of the next winter is growing on the meadows. Between the nutritious grasses, herbs, flowers, and orchids grow here. The Matsalu National Park is a unique protected area, but it needs human care in order to upkeep the species diversity of the meadows and breeding places for many birds. The meadows are mowed, always under the watchful eyes of their feathery inhabitants. Many insects are caught in the process. Raptors are among the first to come and take their share. Entire swarms of starlings visit the freshly mown meadows. During the haymaking time, the meadows are transformed into an opulent feast for the birds. Farmers are paid by the state to mow the meadows, to stop brush in its tracks, and keep species diversity high. But the dry period is not always long enough to recover the hay bales in time. It's often too wet even in July to collect them, and they stay put. It's now mating season for the deer. The territories have been decided. Now the focus is on the females. She seems to seek his proximity, and he is happy to follow her. Courtship can ensue. Days before she's actually ready to mate. But this is not the time to give up easily. The moose cows are nowhere near ready. They still maintain a clear distance to the bulls. Their antlers are still encased in velvet tissue, rich in blood vessels. They're very tender, and fighting is not on the agenda. A little measuring up, on the other hand, is on the cards. The size of the antlers will eventually decide who will have access to the females. A little lower down, it's not size, but noise that counts. Grasshoppers live in the meadows and are also looking for love. Friction generates the chirping sound that brings partners together. This is what generates the familiar and constant summer concert in the meadows. The moose family is in constant pursuit of the best food. Only a few weeks are left for them to amass enough of a reservoir to get through the winter. Every gram counts and could mean the difference between life and death. At the end of August, the nights are already a little chilly. Above the forests and meadows, cool, moist air condenses, and produces stunning natural spectacles. For now, the morning mists are only short-lived. The sun quickly burns through the cool haze. At the end of summer, almost all young animals are on the brink of adulthood. These young cranes already busily practice their flying. The reward? A tasty snack. They will soon follow their parents on their long journey south. Towards the end of August, other migrating birds return from the north. The barnacle geese are back. They scour the fields and meadows surrounding Matsalu Bay, where they find plenty to eat. Undeterred by the noise from the birds, the moose rest. They need this time to ruminate at leisure. The coat of the young moose have taken on the adult's gray hue, and they're nearly the same size. In the 5 months since their birth, the calves have increased their weight tenfold. They're now an imposing 100 to 150 kilos. But during the lean winter months ahead, they will shed up to 20% of this weight. The bigger and heavier they can become before then, the better their chances to survive. At the end of September, the adults turn their attention to creating the next generation. Two rivals want to find out who is the stronger contender. Having recently ditched their antlers' velvet skin, they set about sizing each other up. In the moose arena, the adversary is initially observed from a safe distance. The showdown begins when the two contenders sway towards each other like drunken sailors. It's supposed to show off their massive bodies and imposing antlers. In the end, it's size that matters. Strutting your stuff is usually enough to determine a winner. The weaker bull decides to leave. But for now, there is no cow in sight, not even for the winner. In early autumn, the low-lying areas of Matsalu begin to flood again. Increasingly frequent downpours bring water from the surrounding areas, and the flat bay area only drains slowly. Large-scale flooding is the consequence. The water levels of inland lakes also rise. And where people do not intervene, an enchanted underwater world arises. A special feature, underwater springs that feed many of the lakes. The more rain comes down, the higher the groundwater levels, and the more water the springs produce. Lakes, moors, swamps. These are the landscapes of large stretches of Estonia. Now in the wet autumn weeks, the swamps are less accessible than at any other time of the year. It's the starting signal for the moose. Young bulls gather in the vicinity of rutting grounds, eager to measure their strength. As long as they're young, it's easy to determine their age according to their antlers. A single small protrusion marks a 2-year-old, but in the following year, a fork grows with 2 ends, and so on. Even though they're fully mature by their second autumn season, the adolescents won't be part of the serious contests for females for a while to come. Their tussles are still playful challenges. Feeding and ruminating are more important right now. But the peace is deceptive. Their senses are sharpened and honed on reproduction. Especially when there is a cow nearby. Who knows? Perhaps there will be an opportunity after all. With ears and eyes, she takes a measure of her surroundings. But during the mating season, smell is the most important sense. The cow can sniff out strong bulls over long distances, and that's what she's waiting for. The 2 young wannabes nearby are of no interest to her. While the moose prepare for the rut, most migrating birds bid their goodbyes to the bird paradise. They've made the most of Matsalu National Park, and now head south. Just before the arrival of winter, it's high season for the moose. The moose mother has fed non-stop for the whole summer and raised her 2 young successfully. This bull, in his prime, is now waiting for her to come into season. Pheromones drift across the meadows, and the bull follows the cow's enticing scent. This time, the mother tolerates him in her vicinity, but she's not quite ready. She moves on, always followed by her young, who don't leave her side even in the mating season. Everyone comes together at the rutting ground. Even fancy dress is allowed. And moose cows are not shy when their sex pheromones are at their zenith. Everyone is hoping for a chance to mate. Is he in the right place at the right time? Or can he win her for himself? A brief test of her urine tells him it's time. And under the observation of the other moose, he finally has a go. Quick, short, and often. The moose mating time lasts almost 2 months. But as soon as a cow is pregnant, she tolerates no more advances. All being well, the moose mother will give birth to new calves in the spring. But until then, she'll tend to her current calves with unwavering devotion. It's her job to teach them how to get through the tough winter ahead. Drained and emaciated, the bulls bid their retreat. Mating season takes it out of them. Only the strongest will survive the coming winter. Everywhere the time has come to bid farewell. The young cranes are fully fledged and able to fly just as well as their parents. They and the moose are the last to leave their summer paradise. Until next spring brings them back to the rich, natural Eden of Matsalu.